Hello, good morning. Welcome to Lima Line Bible Studies. It's from the unreleased Bailey Sung demo that's still hanging around. Someday. So today we're doing Daniel 7. And this is very exciting, so let's get right into it. Hold on a second here. Right. Daniel 7, beginning at verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man. And a man's heart was given unto it, to it. Sometimes King James gets to me. And behold another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions. And behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue at the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, and that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked them the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me to know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other, which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, which and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the kingdom upon... the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times, and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and the dominion, and the kingdom and dominion, and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven, shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. So, Daniel has this vision and this dream, and it's really the first real prelude of what we discover in Revelation. In some ways, it's notable in its differences, right? We notice things that we know 10 horns. The beast has 10 horns and other things. But what of these 4 beasts? There are 4 beasts described in Revelation chapter 4 and 5, but that's a very different... Those living creatures are not the beasts described here. In fact, usually when they describe, the beasts of Revelation chapter 13, the famous beast, is Allah, the mark of the beast. It is a therion, a wild beast, a wild animal. Whereas the creatures, though they are, it is interesting, I think, that the 4 beasts described, 3 of them really do make you think of Daniel's first 3 beasts. The one that was, right, like a lion with eagle's wings. Well, there's one beast is like an eagle, the other one like a lion. There's no calf, though. And there's no bear. The beast was likened to a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. I mean, the final beast, which is not described, notice it's a nondescript beast for the most part here. Sometimes people try to plug in historical things. We'll talk about each beast in detail here. This is where we'll really make, hopefully, line by line aspect of this shine, because unlike last chapter, though I hope in reading that you got a really good big picture of it, because I had all kinds of things running through my head, and it's like reaching out to it, and to be able to unfold that slowly is going to be challenging. So, I saw in my visions by night, behold, the 4 winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. A lot of times there is this visionary aspect of the 4 winds. Because we divide, people, why we divide the world into quadrants is an interesting thing. But I think it's a byproduct of basically, it's a natural outcome of operating in 3-dimensionality using straight lines. If you're using straight lines in three-dimensional space, eventually you're going to get to cubes and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just natural. If you've ever laid out to measure a floor and you want to do tile, squares come into it. And so this square and making the world into a square, and the fact that humans always, we have, it's kind of avant-garde to make something that is, I mean, most of our structures are square. Our body is somewhat square. Yeah, I mean, we have, basically, you have right side, left side, front side, back side. And it's also cubic with top side, bottom side, I guess. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's a cube geometrically, but this idea of thinking of things from the idea of quadrants, it doesn't come from some misunderstanding of how the world works, like, oh, it's a flat square. It's not that. It's just that's how we measure the world to this day. Look at a globe, look at latitude and longitude. We divide it into squares, even though because of the roundness of the earth. But I mean, as my daughter said, when you understand, when you work in 3D geometry, like a lot of people in our family are familiar with it because we do some of that stuff professionally. The notion of making a circle out of flat objects is, of course, perfect. We like the geometry you see usually is not perfect spheres, anyways. It's all in little triangles or rectangles. That's just how it works. Anyways, and so the four corners of the earth. In the book of Revelation, there are four angels holding back the four winds from the earth from blowing on the earth. And the purpose of that, that they should let hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God in their foreheads. I want to point out one of the big picture items here right at the beginning. You notice when the angel explains the vision to Daniel, he doesn't really explain it, does he? He gives him the big picture understanding, which a lot of people, take comfort in, and it's a good thing to understand and have faith in as a Christian, is to know we win in the end. The very first explanation he's given is basically the saints are going to take the kingdom and win it, ultimately. But also, then later on, he gives the detail of, like, he's going to make war with the saints and overcome them, as a temporary setback. And here's the thing, that's important to know. Because a lot of people have had their heads filled with rapture doctrine, which I disagree with strongly, and but I don't want to alienate my brothers because I think you should listen. I've listened to people preach who oppose it and whatever, and I'm not here to poison anything. But the thing is, we are so coddled, and we've come to expect this idea that, like, tribulation's not for us. Well, we just went through a little, and we're going to go through a little more, and we're already in trouble, big trouble. The world's in trouble, okay? And it may not even be the end. It may be the prelude to the end. I mean, it's going to have to get bad before it gets worse, all right? So anyways, but the big picture thing, the angel lets him know right off the bat when he asks for an explanation. I'm not going to try to find the verse. I don't remember what it was. And then it's a waste of time to scroll around. It's boring. You remember. When we get there, we'll point it out again. The angel said, we win in the end. That's something you got to know. The saints of the Most High. What are the saints of the Most High? That's an important thing. The holy ones. That's right. Till we seal the servants of God on their foreheads. So what's this mean? He's seeing the four winds blowing. That means the winds have been unleashed. That's what Revelation teaches me. See, this is how we understand prophecy. The four winds are unloosed. He saw, this connects that. Why would God show him the winds blowing? What's it mean? Key it in. Key into the location. It's funny because I've often considered Daniel one of my weak points, but it's mostly because these things have to be, it seems to be an obvious connection, but it's not one that I was always able to make. Because the Holy Spirit gives to us as we are, as I would say need, but as he pleases. Because I need more. That's what I think. More sooner. And you'd probably be like, well, ask more. Well, maybe. Right. I don't know. We do, one thing I've tried to do is to change and learn. I think that's critical. Because Jesus, he didn't seem to have a good outlook on people who are like old wineskins. Because as a human, let me tell you what, if you're a human being and you ever become an old wineskin, you probably I mean, you come so set in ways you have no room for growth. I hope that when I'm 80, I still think of myself as like a growing individual. I'm not necessarily saying I need to be like, I think I'm going to have sins to work on. I don't know. I always think like I could be a lot kinder in my heart. You know what I mean? I have room for growth. I do kindness, but a lot of times I don't feel it. I don't mean to be whatever. I confess my sin. It's my shortcoming. God is he's kinder to me and goes more out of his way for me than I have for my fellow men. So I'll work on that. But but I was considered, always be optimistic. Never get too down on yourself. It's like, well, whatever, it's like I think that's a good thing to be worried about. You know what I mean? That's a good problem to have. If you're aware of it. If you're not aware of it, it's a bad problem to have. It's good to be aware of things. Anyways. Behold another beast. Okay, wait, we didn't get to the first beast. So the four winds. And there we go, right? That's an exciting thing to know. That places us prophetically after, they've been sealed. And the wind is blowing. I mean, that's my interpretation of that part. The four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. They're hurt. Hold them back. It's a big deal in Revelation 7. I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels, which were given to hurt the earth and the sea. Hurt not the earth, nor the sea, nor the tree. Wait, I saw the four. Oh, it's the part pre-angel. Right before the angel arises, there's a spoken word part. Holding the four. That part I can't quote from memory because that doesn't have the melody part from it. I have to actually start in from the previous song. Sounds so stupid. I should have brought that verse. Maybe we'll play that. Well, we'll be in this chapter tomorrow, I guarantee you. If we're studying it all, we're going to be studying this chapter. But I want to look at, what is that lead in right there? After these things, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And then the angel ascending from the east, that was the part I quoted. That's why I start singing it. I'll play that one tomorrow, probably. I wish I had, I think I don't sing that too terribly. I don't mean to be, vain about that, but just I like to put out good products for people, even if they are free. It's and for the Lord. The only one who would end up regretting really is me. Okay. Okay, so the four winds striving on the great sea. I do think that that's indicative of this is the time of the end, right? Prophetically. Only because in the context, you know what I mean? We're talking about apocalyptic literature here. So, four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. And it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man. And a man's heart was given unto it. And behold another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised itself up on the side, and had three ribs, in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus into a rise and devour much flesh. Okay, we're going to have to take big picture on this, and then go into detail, because I'm getting more big picture right now. And then the leopard. The beast that I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power, and exceeding great authority. And I saw one of his heads, there's a deadly wound thing. And this three ribs thing, and the three kings, I get a little confused with the king stuff in Revelation and this. And I always take it that it'll be a little more clear when it appears. But let's see if we can't understand some things. One thing that comes to me as a possible bit of linkage right here is that, how it says in Revelation, the beast which thou sawest was and is not and yet is. And there are seven kings, five are fallen, one is, one is not yet. A lot of times people want to say specifically what that means, and I don't know myself right now. But there is sometimes I feel like these symbols are nested. In other words, the beast with 10 horns, in Revelation, it seems to have had, with 7 heads and 10 horns, it seems to have sort of devoured the other beasts and taken on their characteristics. It's got feet like a bear, it's like a leopard, it's got all the stuff, right? Pretty much all the parts of at least some of the parts. It was like it has a lion aspect. It doesn't have eagle stuff associated with it, I don't think. But I have so much eagle, whatever. We'll get to that. We'll worry about that. That's not so important. But my point is, you can see a piece of each beast mingled in there, right? So eventually, those beasts, which we understand are like kings, kingdoms, governments, something along that line, right? Kingships. All right. So they eventually, there's these 3 kings, and Daniel sees this other 4th terrible one come, and it destroys all of them. And then in Revelation, we see that it's actually, they become it in some respect. And in that case, when it talks about these first 3 beasts and the 4th beast, it's different. The 3 beasts, I think, are the same as the 3 horns that he subdues. That's what this is saying. I mean, that's what this is literally describing. This is the 3 horns. They are the 3 horns. And they become, I think that's what I'm suggesting. I'm not, commanding that as my new pronouncement, but, that's my point. I'm that's what I'm seeing, that it's somewhat nested here. And that's what, I think we're getting about as close a look as you'll ever get to those 3 horns. Or, and also to what a horn might represent. These are 3 particular kingdoms, or whatever, countries, that will be subdued to become part of the beast in the end. The final 3 kingdoms that he has to... And this may be sort of the solution of the deadly wound, as opposed to the deadly wound itself. The deadly wound is to one of the heads of the beast itself, and I would not consider it related to these beasts in their primal form. In their form before they encounter the 4th beast. I don't think until they encounter the 4th beast, and this actual, what Daniel actually sees, he sees 3 beasts, and then a 4th beast come and just kick the living, what out of him, right? And so that's the vision, that's the moment, that's what he sees. When the 4 winds are loosed, the beast appears and he tramples these 4 kingdoms, subduing them, and thereby subsuming them also, and taking them into and putting together an earthly kingdom for himself to subdue all the kingdoms of the world. This is why this is what apocalyptic Christianity is all about. I mean, we know this is what we think is coming. This is why in the pandemic I was like, yeah, I know the masks aren't the mark of the beast, but isn't it interesting to see how easily people will fall for things like the mark of the beast? And just go along with things like, well, I need my groceries. I get it. Who knows how to make food hardly? Even farmers, the farmers I know plant hundreds of acres of corn and nothing else. It's not like we're going to live off that. I mean, I guess we could survive, right? Just what I want, GMO corn for the rest of my life. I'll have horns growing out of my head. Anyways... but I don't know. I'm loving this study. How much time I'm only 24 minutes in. I think I'm killing it, man. Okay, because it's not that the Lord just absolutely seems pretty clear to me. This has never seemed clearer. Just what we're seeing now. What nations are these? 4 nations. What is the era we're entering? We're entering an era, they say or believe, an era of great powers competing against each other. 4 great, there's 3 great powers, maybe. Well, near the end is what I'm saying. There'll be 3 great powers potentially striving, perhaps, or being maybe even at peace with each other. But because it doesn't really say they're diverse, they're different. They're not similar. They're very different from each other, but of course, the 4th one, like I said, is different in a different way. The first 3 are different in that they have different forms. One's like a lion with the eagle's wings. let's talk about this beast for the rest of the study, and maybe we'll get through all three of them in the study, and whatever, we'll see. The first was like a lion and an eagle's wings. We associate lions are symbolically used very often for their fierceness. A lion is known to be fierce. We often have traditionally called the lion the king of beasts, even though obviously, like many things, Tyrannosaurus Rex isn't the biggest of that type of creature that ever existed. It was just the biggest one we had found up to that point, But it's like that's how man is vain in his knowledge. Like they talk about history as if they've really looked. Like I said, all the stuff they're unearthing in Turkey from like 10 and plus 12,000 years ago, at least that's what they say. It's really old stuff though. It's much further back than anything. Here's the thing. We know it has to be older than the Bronze Age because there's no evidence of Bronze Age stuff. So where does it fit in? It's got to be pre all that stuff. It's not part of that history. It's very different culturally and stuff. Anyways, but a lion, you think about the symbology of a lion. It also is, we associate it also with things that come with fierceness, such as bravery. Fear, like as a lion. The Lord describes himself being as like a lion in defending his people. And also the Lord Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah in the book of Revelation. So it is not necessarily a negative symbol, but like all things, very often, it's truly just a neutral symbol. It is a symbol of strength and fierceness, of a willingness. It is that. That's why it is a good symbol of royalty and the power to dominate and to destroy, to enforce law and stuff like that. We use it. They associate it with governments and kingdoms all the time. It is like a lion. Which kingdom on the earth is most like a lion? It's like, well, right now, it's like what? Of course, we could say, well, America, we have wings on the back of the thing, and we like lions and all that. Okay, but I tend to think like I'm gonna be looking just to wait to see, ultimately. But I like the idea. I'll tell you, but I looked at this as America, and I thought, okay, like a lion with eagle's wings. We practically invented flying, and pioneered aviation. If there's any one thing that America is overwhelmingly known for, I think, is air power. We have the power of air. We command the skies. Not entirely. It's not absolute, God forbid. Not God forbid, but whatever. I think God forbid now because we've become so corrupt, and we're sending, we're having the Ukrainians all fight the Russians because we if we sent our kids to do it, there'd be riots in the street. That no one would put up with this absolute death and devastation. It needs to be put a stop to. That's why, anyways, whatever. I don't want to get too political right now. It should that's what I want to stand for. So what about Ukraine? It's like they're not going to win this, and we have no intention of helping them win this. We're just going to give them enough guns to prolong the war and bleed Russia. We're just killing people. Nothing's going to change over there. We're going to ruin their country in our name, in my name. No, thank you. I think America has very noble ideas and seeks to fly high and to be this noble and defend democracy around the world. And I used to believe that. I used to think that was what we were all about. But I don't think that anymore. We're going to have our wings plucked, and we're going to be made to stand on our feet like men. That's what's going to happen. If that's us. And a man's heart given to it, yeah. See what it's like to be one of the regular folks. We've been living in dreamland in this world sometimes, I think. Because we have everything so nice. It's like there's so much murder and mayhem out there, and it's like, and that's not what we use our power to, we're not using our power to stop that stuff. We don't care. Our government doesn't care. They know about it, and because it doesn't affect us, and we don't make us think about it. And we don't know about it, because they pay people not to tell us about it. They pay people to tell us stuff that is just a bunch of BS and distractions so that people don't know about what's going on and what's being done in their name and what's being done with their money. So yeah, I could see that being America somehow. I mean, if we're near the time of the end, we could be one of those three nations that Satan comes down and grinds to powder as an example to the rest of them. At least the nation. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean the power. He will crush our power and incorporate it into himself. You know. So I don't know. Could be something else. Maybe it's China. Maybe they need to walk on their feet as a man. I don't know. The stand on his feet as a man's heart. You know, he had a lion's heart. He lifted up with wings like eagles. You know, those metaphors. I didn't talk about the eagle's wings, but I think, you know, of Isaiah when it says, "They shall, those that wait on the Lord, shall run and not. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint." You know, the idea of mounting up with wings like eagles. It doesn't mean that literally, of course. You know, it's like the Bible's literal. You know, it's like, and if it's not literally true, then it must be false. Nonsense. But the idea of eagles, I do think of soaring aspirations. I could be totally wrong about all that. That's totally speculative, by the way, what I said about there in America. But when I start plugging my country into there, that's how I feel about it right now. But that's not necessarily the right interpretation of that detail. Like I said, Daniel doesn't give him these details. What's the meaning of it? We win. All right? This is how the fight starts, though. This is how the fight starts. And I think the symbolism, it'll all make sense when it happens. Those that have understanding, that know the Word of God, it will all make perfect sense. If you know the Word. So behold another beast, a second, like to a bear. You know, bear-like nations. Bear nation is like bear. They think of themselves as a bear. They're kind of dangerous like a bear, too, because, you know, they got nuclear weapons and stuff. They have claws and, you know, feet as the bear. I wonder what that means, though. They got the feet of the bear, whatever. Well, this beast, it raised up itself on one side. To me, that is very obvious. An animal that is not, it's probably limping or something. You know what I mean? Like not an animal that's like favoring one side, essentially. You know what I mean? It raised itself up on one side. One side was higher than the other. Like it's compensating for something. It's got a weakness, or it's a bear. It's like a wounded bear, maybe. Maybe. It's not explained. So that's, you know, when I say things that are not specifically explained, you have to understand that you should not take it as dogmatic. I don't want to start a little cult following of my own. You know what I mean? That's one thing I'm very keen not to happen. I don't mind people listening to me for all their lives. I just don't want you to make it, just don't like start shouting at people and say, Paul Stringini says, you know, it's like, please don't do that for me, all right? My enemies might do that. You know, that's the funny thing is, like, one time people have wanted to promote my stuff, and I don't mind. I don't get excited about it because I'm not good at promotion like that, and I'm never, but it's like, here's the thing. You know, my enemies go around saying terrible things about me. I can't control that. And people who genuinely mean well, I would never think of controlling you either. You know, so, you know, as far as that goes. I mean, being mindful of my own privacy and stuff like that, you know, like in propriety, you know, people with good taste and sense, I don't mind what people say about me. I'm like, you know, or people want to reference me, it's okay. But again, just make sure you do it justice. I often have said things dogmatically as if dogmatic, but not meaning so, you know, because sometimes when you make a point, you just say it like it's a dogmatic truth. Or axiomatic even. Dogmatic, I mean like you take it and it becomes dogma, like something just accepted as faith, or like that's the answer. It's like, well, maybe it's not the answer. Maybe the bear is not Russia. You have to keep your mind open to that. Though my mind says the bear is Russia. Maybe whatever. I don't know what it is for sure. Well, maybe it's Russia. They are the bear nation. 3 ribs in the mouth of it. Is it Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia? Do they go after the Baltics next? That would be a shocker. But they're arming. All the Europe is gearing up for war. Apparently, they want war over there again. They like two world wars last century didn't teach them a lesson. We need to get the hell out of there. That place is a madhouse. They keep killing each other, and they never seem to learn anything. Germany is all gung ho for war again. We're letting them attack Russia. Essentially, I think it's a bad idea. This could be negotiated. It should have been negotiated long ago. It's terrible. When I see war like this, I think of this. Okay, and so then it was a voice says to it, "Arise, devour much flesh." There is going to be some sort of kingdom. Look at. If this is going to be the time of the end, this bear, and it could be a bear alliance for all I know. This could be Russia and China, because there could be a third kingdom. That's the thing. Is the third kingdom Russia? Is it like a leopard? Four wings of a fowl? I'll tell you what. I'll go with that. All right. We're going to interpret it for modern times. I don't usually like to do this, but since it's the curiosity thing, well, let's make that comparison. Like I said, we're not going to be dogmatic because I've seen people do this 1,000 times. Like I said, now it may mean things are set. I'll tell you what. If Satan appeared next year, what I'm saying now is probably what it is. What it is. You know what I mean? Like if the Antichrist appeared, if the little horn came up and all this was filled to the full, in a couple of years, things would have to change on the ground big for it to be any other way. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Because if it happened in our time, this is as ready as we could get with a sketchy interpretation. All right. Arise, devour much flesh. That sounds like it's like there's a spirit of going up and conquering and stuff. Maybe because they sense our weakness, and we are weak. Especially we don't even have any idea how weak we are and what a precarious position we are in. We can't look at nations are like people in that, like, when we have friends, if you're not a good friend, you lose your friends. People are not gonna, like, you do good things for people, but you can't continually mistreat them and think they're gonna stay your friends. And we're losing all our friends. That's why we're gonna stand on our own feet. We're not gonna go flying around. We're not gonna be the lion of the world. Or we're still gonna be that for a while. I mean, we're not. We're gonna be made. I think we're gonna be made to stand as a man, which sounds like standing in judgment. Sort of like judgment's coming to America before the end. America will still be there, but we're not gonna be a soaring lion eagle anymore. All right, we're gonna be something else. Just a man. Just a man. We're gonna find out we're like all the other kingdoms of the world, and then Satan's gonna, I don't mean to say this like I know. I don't mean to say this like I don't know. The Spirit of God is making me awfully certain about things that I don't mean to sound certain, but my tongue keeps talking off in this weird certain kind of tone, which I don't really care for. It's funny to me. Because I just keep asserting things because it's just, well, you know why? Because I believe that part, the reason is because I can read that into that symbol very easily. It doesn't always work that way. And maybe some people felt like that a decade ago, you know what I mean? Or 2 decades ago. And I feel like that now. And that may be true until history changes. But right now, at this point where we are, and that's another thing, is like, these visions are for the end, but they are patterns that repeat throughout history of soaring aspirations of nations and symbols of such things. And he's just saying that there are going to be 3 striving maybe not 3 coexisting powers near the time of the end, which will be trampled down by the beast, notably, and incorporated into it. And the 3 ribs is almost like a microcosm. It's like, they portray Putin as like the new Hitler or something. It's like, and it's almost like, it's like a farcical. He's got 3 ribs in his mouth, like the 3 horns that the other one plucks out. Yeah, it's interesting. Or maybe something about the bear represents this deadly wounds spoken of. I don't know about that. I think that might even come after. I'm not sure. A lot of that timing is really, I think it's sketchy. A lot of people say they know and act like they know, and it's like, but there's sure is a lot of difference, isn't there, of opinion on these matters. All right. Because I mean, you could, oh well, maybe one is Iran or the Islam. It can change. You know what I mean? Maybe, like I said, it's a Russia-China alliance and like da 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 da. Well, again, maybe when Antichrist comes, there's no trampling of Iran at all because he doesn't need to, because he appears to them as a savior, and he is accepted in that country. He speaks them in Persian, Farsi, or whatever their language is, and and whatever, and they have their own resistance or whatever, but they don't need to be crushed as a nation for some reason. Yeah, I don't want to be the first beast because I don't like that in my country being crushed by Satan on arrival. But it may be. It may be. Hopefully that mostly means foreign military bases, right? Not here. Have you ever looked at a map of all our military bases? We dominate the world. And, I used to think that was cool, and I'm not saying it ain't, but I just wish we would be better at it, And it makes me feel like, when I was young, I remember when we went into Iraq, I was like, why shouldn't there be an American empire? We're the good guys. I thought we were, I didn't know even in that instance we were lying. It's a terrible thing. So the leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, it had twice as many wings. That makes me think of China's has even higher aspirations. They really have soaring aspirations for their nation. It's not quite like American aspirations. A leopard is not thought of so much as a lion. A leopard, if you're invoking a leopard, you're thinking of a stealthy hunter. Can the leopard change its spots? And I'm not saying that's what China is like, as far as a nation. Goodness knows the Chinese people have had a hard time of it over history, And I don't really like all the saber rattling towards China and all that stuff, because I certainly don't want war with them. I think they should make peace with Taiwan and hopefully, maybe they'll get sick of having a dictator someday. I don't know. I know it's a technocratic nightmare and all that, but let me tell you something. War is worse than anything. I guess. Is it? Well, war is tell me, brief violence to achieve a goal is sometimes necessary. But like wars that can't be won or that are on what basis? Like, why would we be fighting over by their country? Because we have bases surrounding them. And it's like, imagine if China had bases in Canada, bases in Mexico, military bases. They were operating out of the Caribbean Sea like it was their swimming pool. We've acted like that all over the world. And it's like, we don't think that's going to come blowing back in our faces pretty hefty. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I wish we'd been a little, more considerate when we had mastery of the world. Now when we lose it, what's going to happen to us? We've been foolish. 4 wings of a fowl and leopard-like, and also had 4 heads. And Dominion was given. Well, there's an argument against China, right? Maybe this represents the Islamic kingdoms. Maybe Satan's going to need to come in and, it's like Iran, Saudi Arabia. They're partnering up right now. If they form an alliance and come into peace one with another, they could become this 4-headed beast, because they really have one operating principle. They're all Islamic states, for the most part. We got rid of Saddam Hussein. He was a secular ruler. We got rid of Muammar Gaddafi. All those places are now Islamic states. We've helped homogenize the Middle East and make it completely radical. This is our Department of State. They're a complete disgrace. They've completely radicalized. So this could be, like I said, you could be looking at a Russian-China alliance, and then the other beast. Because they're beasts, they might be just like kingdoms in a sense, but in a bigger sense. Like, like NATO. NATO could be the eagle, the lion with eagle's wings. As far as like, if you're looking at in it from a powers standpoint, alliances, Again, doesn't say that. But a beast could be reckoned as just as the big beast of the end has multiple parts. It has horns and heads, and they represent kings and stuff. And while the whole beast itself represents a king and a kingdom, a singular one little horn at the top of it all. We're not going to even touch the little horn today because we're going to keep on the beast here. In the first part. So 4 heads. I could see some sort of Islamic configuration that's 4-headed. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia. Of Islam, powerful, or Egypt or somewhere in there. I hope not Egypt. It shouldn't be Egypt, I think, prophetically. Because there are better things in there for Egypt. I don't know about whatever. Well, here's the thing. It's like, where we're talking about is not necessarily something that's like the wrath of God. We're talking about Satan coming in and doing what he's going to do. He's going to make war against the saints and a lot of other people. He spares not even his own people. Thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. That's what I said. Like, over there in Ukraine, we're paying him billions of dollars to kill his people, to send his people to their deaths in a war they are not going to win. And what are they going to win? What? The extermination of the Russians? What does winning look like? What is a win here? I'd really like to know what winning means. You don't want Ukraine to win? Well, what does winning mean? Scoring 50 points like in some sort of game? When do they win? When they kill the leader of Russia? I mean, are you not? That's not happening without severe consequences. I don't know what happened to our world. I feel like I live in a place of insane people these days. The adults are not running things. We have avaricious, greedy, irresponsible villains in charge, really. Villainous people. The high crimes and misdemeanors, like this is the sort of thing. He should be removed for general corruption and being bribery, rape, bribery, etc. Whatever. I don't know. I think actually the problem is our real leaders, the people who actually just are in Washington all the time, are real leaders, the people who just decide to go to war with people without asking, are real leaders like him because he's powerless. And they let us have Trump, and they didn't kill him because they thought they didn't think he'd be up to it, and he wasn't quite. They were able to snooker him at every turn. Not quite every turn. He got some stuff done. More stuff done than any president that in my lifetime, and it makes me very... I do not regret voting for him, and I'd vote for him again. But I don't know. We're going to be made to stay... I don't want to say that. That's what I've been fearing. It's like we could have had a nice soft landing, but instead we let our heads get just filled with empire. Not me, not you really. Maybe me a little. Well, I mean, I felt the spirit of it passing over in that time. It didn't take me, whatever. Whatever. Maybe sometimes we're slow learners, but we're learners. Okay, so a 4th beast rises up, dreadful and terrible. We've been talking about the whole time, right? And strong exceedingly, using a lot of descriptive terms. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces. The one of the elements that's described in Revelation, right? Those teeth of life. Is this the only iron teeth in the Bible? Is it just is it just not mentioned any other place? Let's see. Iron teeth. I'm just trying to remember if I'm actually just remembering Daniel 7. Like I'm thinking it's somewhere in Revelation. I actually think it's just Daniel 7. Yeah, there's only one iron teeth in the Bible. This is it. Teeth of iron. Wait, I didn't search a phrase. Did I search? I did search a phrase. Hold on. I need all. There's all the words in the whole Bible. There's 2 places in the Bible where iron teeth are mentioned. Let's see what the other one is. Here, I'll put it so you can see a little better. There we go. Results 2. Well, what's the second one? It's Daniel 9:17. So I was just remembering Daniel. Okay. All right. So I was just remembering this passage because it's not mentioned. Their teeth were as the teeth of lions. I was thinking with the locusts that come out of the locust-like creatures, let's say, this with the teeth of a lion, and that was becoming slightly confused in my mind because, like I said, there's a lot of imagery, different kinds of teeth, breaking of teeth, weeping and gnashing of teeth, well, the weeping and grinding of teeth, or whatever, gnashing. It's the King James. Okay, let's bring up the text. So, great iron teeth. Obviously, teeth are used to bite and devour, right? To eat. And the idea of having iron teeth is, like when they had chariots of iron. Iron was the strongest metal at that time. They didn't have knowledge of things like titanium. So when iron is a more complicated metal and also rarer to extract, because it doesn't come, because it oxidizes so readily, it's not so easy to get it out. Though the use of iron was, like way back in the Bronze Age, in the early Bronze Age, you can find artifacts of iron, but they're exceedingly rare, and they would have been exceedingly expensive at the to make something of iron. It was just at that time, right? Things had not come to that point yet. But when the Bible was written, iron was the metal of the age. It was the Iron Age. And so things were made out of iron. And they still use bronze. Not like they're like, throw all the bronze stuff away, make it of iron. It's like, of course, these things have all kinds of crossover. It's just that in the Iron Age, which doesn't have hard boundaries or anything, but iron became much more common. And in that, it became known. And then so in the symbolism, it became the symbol of unbreakable strength. Teeth of iron. Yeah, I'm glad my teeth are made out of enamel, because I don't know if I'd want iron teeth. Well, it's funny because it's soft. I don't know. Depends on what. Iron can be hard, very hard. Brittle. It's like not the same necessarily as certain kinds of steel. They make it different, flexible. There's different ways. Like raw iron is pretty brittle as a metal, and most of the metal they use for iron is some alloy of iron. It's usually not just pure, as far as I think that's right. Anyways, so the great iron teeth give it strength to do all these things. I don't think they actually do they represent anything? No, I think it's just representative of this beast being exceedingly beyond the others. Like it's like not even close. It just comes in and devours, breaks in pieces, and stamps the residue with the feet of it. Like when Babylon came in and wiped out all the little nations, except these are not just little nations. These are supposed to be sort of big nations, because the wind is striving on the four corners. It's like sort of something I think portrayed as somewhat a world event, not just some minor thing of a kingdom. And that's why, unlike it's not given to some king or something, it's just given to the prophet. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in the horn were eyes. So the little horn is the beast, and it also, it's represented in these 2 ways, which is really interesting. Think about it. It's this great devourer beast, and then it's just this little horn. This little horn. And it's like not a big power. Not such a big thing. It's a little horn. I never really considered that too strongly. Like the aspect of like it being little. Another little horn. There came up among them another little horn. Not that there's some other little horn, but like I think also, I don't want to read too much into it, because it's like you have big horns, and if you have one that grows up in the midst of it, it would come up little. Which may have more reference to its newness, or to the fact that, I don't know, Satan, or the Antichrist, what it depends on what form he takes, is perhaps going. Well, one of the things I believe is that the form of Antichrist is going to be in some form of a supernatural or alien, meaning otherworldly people coming to the earth, and in some way or form trying to convince at least Christians that they're Jesus. He may try to convince Muslims that he's, there'll be all kinds of webs of lies and stuff and propaganda, of course, and just, and you'll be told what to think about it, and you won't be given any options to think anything else, or you will be cut off from society because everyone is going to believe this hard. He's just a little horn. Nothing to see here, nothing scary. Not a big, powerful, scary horn, but just a little one. Just a little one that speaks great things. It's giving him a mouth. In this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man. I'm seeing a giant beast, like fierce, and then you're focusing in on the horns. And this little horn grows out, just a little horn. Right? But that little horn is the giant beast. But what does it really take? Does it look like a giant beast that tramples and has iron teeth? No. It has eyes like the eyes of a man. It doesn't have, it's not made to, the interesting thing is the nation that is made to stand on its feet as a man and given a man's heart. That's a good thing. It's I think about when Israel had their stony heart taken away and replaced with a heart of flesh. Maybe it means there's going to be a revival for America. And then we're going to be crushed by Satan. So, right? That's still good news. That's good news. I do think being made to account is good for us. We can't go on ignorantly trampling people ourselves. We're not supposed to be like this fourth beast. I thought we were different, But we're not diverse from the other nations of the world. We're much like them as far as the way we behave outwardly. Inwardly, yeah, it's a free country. We have human rights. But I see now we don't believe those rights are universal because we don't afford them to people who aren't protected under the umbrella of the technicality of the law, which I find disturbing. George Washington didn't torture British captives not because it was against the law, but because it was against his conscience. And according to Barack Obama, we tortured some folks, but we're not going to punish those responsible. Are you kidding me? That encourages it to be done again. I'll be tortured because of that, no doubt. I mean, if I'm tortured, it's because of men like that, who, when all it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to do nothing, okay? And when that man had an opportunity to do something good, which I probably wouldn't have liked him doing, but probably should have done. Well, I'll tell you, I always disagreed with that waterboarding and stuff. I think everyone knows I was pretty much I don't think that's cool. That is torture. I'm and I don't. What if you torture someone who, well, we only torture terrorists. How do you know they're a terrorist? Would you have a fair trial to determine that? Were they innocent until proven it? We don't afford that to them. It's only a matter of time before they use that on you. It's only a matter of time before they use that on you. That's why you treat your enemies humanely. You treat your captives with dignity. Because that's how you want to be treated in a war situation. Believe me. He had great iron teeth, devoured and breaking pieces, stamped the residue with the feet of it, and was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. Oh, we read that. Okay. So the little horn. Okay, I forgot where was my eyes of a man. Did I get? And then it just jumped. We're almost done here. Hold on, wait. No, you know what? We're just gonna decide where we're gonna go next. I believe all right. We'll start at verse 9. I think. Yeah. Okay, we're not leaving the little horn entirely behind, but we'll start at verse 9 because there's still the interpretation. We'll be looking back on these things. Like I said, the 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, eyes like eyes of a man. I just saying, when the horn has eyes of a man, we're focusing down on what it actually is. It doesn't appear to be so fierce. It's just a little horn. It's just a little horn. It's just a little. It's just Jesus. Just worship him. That's not what it's saying, but that's the way I've always felt the seduction was going to come, because I know that because I worship God, the Antichrist is going to pose and exalt himself above God and above Christ, and in some ways may seek to impersonate Christ. That's why we regard him as false Christ. They talk, watch out for false Christs. Many will come in my name, saying I am Christ, and shall deceive many. But there's also an antichrist, not just those who deceive in the name of Christ. Whatever. Okay. Well, I have much more to say about that. I'm very pleased with the beginning of this study, so I look forward to continuing it this week. I hopefully get in. Maybe it might be an afternoon study all week. I don't know. I'd prefer it not be, but anyways, until next time.